Hello, everybody. We're here today with Ella and Rachel, and we're here with Kerry from Homestead How. Appreciate you being here. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about type 1 diabetes and Graves' disease. So let's kick this off and get started. Ella and Rachel, can you both tell us a little bit about yourselves?
So I am Ella. This is my mom, Rachel. I am a type 1 diabetic, and I've been diabetic for 7 years now. And we have been just researching, this carnivore stuff for a long time. And we're both carnivore. She was the one who found it out, and now I'm doing it, and it's helped my health a lot.
Very cool.
And I'm Ella's mom. And one thing I've been forgetting lately is that so because she was 9 when she was diagnosed with the first chronic, autoimmune illness, I did all the work. And so she's kind of just recently been putting the pieces together to why everything's been the way it's been, as far as her habits and the food we have in the house and activity and stuff. She's putting the science pieces together now because she's older. So a lot of the research stuff, like I'll mention to her and I'll be like, oh, you were little when I incorporated that, so never mind, I'll explain it. So yeah. But I'm just I'm like the background piece, trying to kind of make it so she thrives.
That's awesome. Very cool. So you said Ella was young when she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, 9 years old, spent 10 days in the hospital, and we really didn't know what diabetes was. I was 9, so I had no idea what was going on. Also, there was a lot of other stuff going on. My memory is kind of bad around that time.
It was pretty emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Most diagnoses of type 1 diabetes are, unfortunately, but we learned how to handle it. She did most of the work because I was 9 and then I was getting older, and, I knew how to dose my insulin, but I didn't really know how to take care of it by myself, obviously, because I was a kid. But now that I'm getting older, I'm realizing that's something that I need to learn how to do, or that I've learned how to do.
Yeah, she's gonna go off someday, and so right now it's kind of like, okay, this is all the stuff that I've kind of got packaged for you that I figured out, and there's always new stuff coming out. Like, we kind of have to stay on top of new information and things. But yeah, the diagnosis was very scary. It's right before you get diagnosed with type 1, the couple of weeks leading up to that diagnosis, usually when they catch it, your life is at risk, pretty much. It's imminent that you get into the doctor. It's kind of not like type 1, type 2, where you can kind of let it go for a while, and you cannot catch it, and you'll be okay. You'll just have little pieces falling off, and you'll stay alive like this.
Wow. Yeah,
this is more, it's imminent that you get it diagnosed right as soon as it starts to kind of come to the head.
I had an A1, or not an A1C. I had a blood sugar of 685. My A1C was around 14. And
wow.
Yeah, it was bad. And
it's
funny because in the hospital, I got there and I was, I had this other thing going on where I couldn't eat. So when they gave me those pain meds to eat, I was eating so much food, and then they found out that I was diabetic, and then put me on ice chips for a couple days. But then they sent me back into eating regular food, even with the high blood sugars and the A1C of 14. At 9 years.
Yeah, there was an infection, and it was right as we actually had been in and out of urgent care because she was having some other diabetes symptoms that I didn't know about diabetes, so I didn't know that there were diabetes symptoms. But they were definitely different. Like, I noticed the difference. She was just extremely thirsty and wanting to lay down all the time. And she is a sleep through the night kid. I mean, since the day she was born, and very happy, very energetic. So it was a big change in her whole self. Like for me, I'm like, this is not normal for her. And they were like, oh, she's just got some bug. And so we went back twice. It wasn't until the third time. And I said, okay, I need like another opinion, because this is not just a bug, like something's up. So yeah, she went in and she had, because she didn't get kind of figured out right at the start, her body was just trying to give a sign something was wrong. And so she had this infection that started kind of coming out of her face. And by the time we get in there, they're running her blood to find the infection. And that's when they saw her blood sugar number. And then that was the beginning of the 10-day stay. Yeah.
That sounds like it was very scary for sure.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, there was really no concern as to the diet, or they really didn't know much in terms of the type 1 diabetes at that point.
I mean, they were telling us, they were teaching us how to take care of it within those 10 days.
They teach you how to count carbs.
Yeah. So that's all. They're like, okay, you count carbs, you dose insulin. This is how and you test your blood sugar with a poker, unless you have the Dexcom. But the CGM. The CGM. This is how you are going to live your life from now on. And I could call down to the cafeteria. I would order my meals. I would order snacks. There was no I didn't really have like a set eating schedule. I kind of just I was in charge of my own food in a children's hospital at 9 years old. So that probably was the best choice, especially being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
We didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know anything. I have actually had roommates over my 40 years. I've had roommates with type 2 diabetes, but adults don't just run around sharing their information. They're just doing their meds and they're eating their food they figured out for themselves. And so it's different than when you have a kid with type 1 or with diabetes, and you're I mean, at least for me as a single mom, I was running around asking, what is everybody doing? This is very scary, to my child. So I didn't know anything about diabetes because people don't share a lot about that because of the shame, I think. And I'm just like, I don't care about the shame. I need the information, so.
Can you tell us a little bit more, the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes are very different. Type 2 diabetes might need help on this because sometimes I say the wrong terminology. But type 2 diabetes, that's kind of the one that is more widely known. And,
At least when you were diagnosed, the statistics that we had were that 95% of diabetics are type 2. A lot of the time that's when you're older, right? It can happen when you're younger. And then type 1 was 5% of diabetes. That's out there. That was the statistics that I had in 2016 when she was diagnosed. And type 1 is it's crazy.
It's more 24/7. So the pancreas, when you're type 2 diabetic, you still make insulin, but you're insulin resistant. When you're type 1 diabetic, you don't make insulin at all whatsoever. So your beta cells are dead.
Your beta cells are not doing their job. So the pancreas doesn't want to make any insulin. So the difference would be that with type 1, like she said, with type 1, you don't have insulin available to you. You do have to take it in a shot or whatever.
Yeah.
And then with type 2, basically from what I've found, that it's kind of like your pancreas is overworked and you've put too much sugar in it over the past few decades, which is why it used to be that you had to be 40 and 50 and 60 to get it, but now I guess you get it in your 20s, which is kind of the thing that makes me concerned. Yeah.
Right.
Type 1 diabetes is more kids get it more, adults can get it, but they used to call it juvenile diabetes.
Right.
And
type 1 is like type 2. I could get type 2 diabetes myself right now if I just started cramming a bunch of sugar in nonstop. But type 1 is just something you're born with. It's not like you did anything wrong, right? It was just your pancreas is different than others for some reason.
So
some people are born with it. That's born with it. You know, they're diagnosed at birth. And
there's
then
a genetic marker
yeah.
that you have to be able to, and you can have that tested if you want to know if you're at risk, and then you could just never get it in the end. You know, people are kind of talking about how like a bug or, you know, a virus or something just kind of triggers it. A lot of people are kind of like, we don't know where it's coming from, but I got sick first and then I got type 1. Everybody kind of in the, you know, in the groups and stuff, we kind of try to collect information, but everything's kind of like mystery. So
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That had to be really scary. And then
Mhm.
it's like when they tell you that too, it's not like, oh, you have this thing, but correct me if I'm wrong. Type 1, it's like a lifelong, you have
Yeah.
to manage with insulin for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a lifelong thing. Now that I'm doing carnivore, I feel like I can handle it. Like it's easier to handle. If I hadn't been carnivore, it would have been 10 times harder. And it was very difficult to stay in range, so much so that we weren't in range. Like a lot of people with diabetes who don't know about carnivore have a different level, and it's unfortunate because, you know, that it's difficult to stay like at a good number when you're, you know, pumping yourself full of sugar all day.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you monitoring yourself? I think you mentioned it earlier, but I might have missed it with the continuous glucose monitor.
Yes, I have a continuous glucose monitor. It's under my shirts right here, and then I have a T-Slim pump.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
So you got a really good idea when you're eating and when you're doing carnivore and everything, the differences between that and
Yeah.
before. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
crazy.
The really neat thing with type 1, and I feel like similar to Dr. Tony Hampton, I didn't put this together like until I had a type 1 in my house. The amount of insulin that is going through her body, we have to look at and count and see and then put it in. But with like you and me, we are not looking at how much we can't just see it in our hands, how much insulin is running through our body. So it's kind of like, you know, you can really see the difference between how her health is when her insulin levels were up, because we have the insulin tangible, you know, right in our hands.
Mhm.
How much is going in and how much less is going in now, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So yeah, it's
So
amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So in terms of how you feel eating kind of the standard American diet versus the carnivore diet, how much better do you feel?
Oh my gosh, a trillion times better. And there's no words, like, you know, not even just like how I like felt physically, like how I felt mentally, how I felt emotionally years ago versus now is like, it's like two way different things. And it's so weird. It works so quickly, and it seems unreal because there's not like, you don't have to really wait. You don't really have to wait long to see the results. I used to have panic attacks. I used to have like just I'm trying to think. I would get tired like a lot more than I do now.
Moods are different.
Yeah, I used to not be as well behaved. And I think it has something to do with the food because, you know, if you know you're eating sugar, it has this chemical response in your brain.
It's so weird.
Yeah, and so now that I'm doing carnivore, I feel like laid back. I feel like healthy. I don't have those panic attacks anymore. There's nothing to a certain extent that just like that I'm worried about. Because I know that like what I'm eating is fueling my body, and I just feel good. Period.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You sound like my daughter Emma for sure. She said a lot of
Yeah.
those same things. How long have you been doing carnivore for now?
4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that part. That's crazy.
Yeah,
No,
we're just lightweights, Kerry.
I know. Geez, rookies over here. She should.
I
Yeah.
gotta tell you guys, when we see people excited and new, it's like oh, this is exactly what it's like when you first start and you're
It's
like,
like reliving the whole thing again.
it is great. It's because, well, and then we, you know, what's neat about you guys is that, and I guess maybe us in the future, is that, yeah, I was a single mom and, you know, figuring this out alone, and my brain was going through like the explosion of like, oh my gosh, this works. What the heck?
Yeah.
And then, you know, and it's almost like opposite of grieving. It's like, wait a minute, nobody ever told me about this, and then the anger, you know, like, you know, like, and I'm like, okay,
5 stages.
who else is like gets this, you know? And it's when
Go on YouTube.
it's hard to, you know, but it's neat to find people like out in public that are like doing it, and they're like, it's just a normal thing for you. Okay, yeah. Over the years, we've come across people that are carnivore, and I mean, I met this lady who's a nurse. It's like, she's just like, she was like 65, something like that. She's like, I was a nurse my whole life, and I can't believe what we're doing to people. And she's like, me and my husband are carnivore, you know, and it's really magical to meet people in public, you know, like,
Yes.
yep, the science is a real thing. But that's
You
so weird.
feel like somebody gets you, like when you start talking about this thing that it's so weird because like nobody gets it, but when you're talking to someone who understands, oh my gosh, it's like the most, I just feel so relaxed. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just a sigh of relief, like knowing that there are people out there who can actually understand and have like a conversation about it instead of just being like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're crazy.
It's crazy too, because I don't know if you get like this, but after a while, it's just like, it makes so much sense now. I get it though, because before I was kind of in that brain fog, but it makes so much sense. It's frustrating that other people don't get it, but yeah, it's great talking to other people. Thank goodness for YouTube, because I was talking to someone about that the other day, and I'm like, if it wasn't for YouTube, I don't think any of us here would be carnivore. It was like very rare that I would have ran into someone in the general public telling me to do carnivore and being able to research it.
Yeah.
Very true.
Just done it without.
Yeah, or then listen to them at all. It's kind of like, oh, this crazy person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the person I found on YouTube I thought was insane, but then I watched like 20 other videos from other people until I finally convinced myself.
Yeah.
But
You're like, okay, this is a community. There's, you know, if they're crazy, at least it's more than one person.
right.
Yeah, for sure. Ella, you have a really interesting story about the camp that you were at. So I think that'd be really cool to share with everybody for sure, to help people understand in the real world what actually happens with type 1 diabetes.
Okay, so here we go. I recently went to diabetes camp, and for anyone who is type 1 diabetic, oh my gosh, I love it so much. Like you make all these friends who understand diabetes. It's a little different though for me because I'm carnivore. So this year when I went to camp, there was an instance where before the kids arrived, you know, we were just kind of able to not really have, you know, because like when it's diabetes camp, you know, you have these, you know, strict meals 3 times a day, all that kind of stuff. I didn't realize that I would be told that there was a 30 carb minimum per meal at diabetes camp. And I had told people, you know, oh, this is just a way I eat, you know, like, because they see me eating all this meat and cheese. They're like, oh, why don't you want the bread? You know, why don't you want the vegetables? What's going on? And I'm like, you know, it's not what I do. It's sometimes I'll tell people like, oh, I just don't like them, you know, to kind of to just be like, eh. But if I'm like, you know, ready to explain all this stuff, I'll be like, you know, I'm carnivore. And then they go, what? And so I told everyone, and you know, the day before the kids arrived, they're like, okay, so they kind of said it to everyone. I knew that they were talking to me because I was the only one who wasn't eating carbs. And they're like, there's a 30 carb minimum. We want you guys to have energy for the kids, so we need you to eat carbs. And I don't know why I didn't, you know, just not do it. I think I didn't want to be a burden, but I ended up doing a full week of 3 meals a day, 30 carbs per day. I mean, more than 30 carbs per meal. And half of my carbs for each meal was milk, because the milk was like 13 carbs for 1 glass. So I was having lots lots of milk, lots of carbs, parfaits for bread. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. And
Parfaits for breakfast?
yes, parfait
Wow.
for breakfast. Ooh, yummy. And
It's the same as hospital food, I feel like.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so weird because I had the opposite of energy. I felt lethargic. I felt bloated. I was all of a sudden like I was just tired, and I couldn't be there all the way for the kids like I would want to be. My brain wasn't all the way there. I started having this fog, and all I could think about was the next meal. All I could think about was like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. One snack. Like I knew that I had to eat the carbs, and it was like, I just wish that I didn't do it, because then I could have been eating my normal thing. And honestly, I probably could have not even had 3 meals a day, because when I'm doing carnivore, like even at home, I probably eat breakfast and then I'm not hungry until like 5 p.m. It fills me up. Like I'm not ever overeating ever. And, and just like getting that water throughout the day especially helps. But at summer camp for diabetics, they were having parfaits and pasta and even one night, we had root beer floats, and it just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. Yeah.
That's insane.
Floats. No, everybody forgot to dose for them as well. So that was a crazy.
Wow.
We had like 500 blood sugars, over 500. That's right. At the end of the week, I told my med staff, I said, hey, so I've been feeling not very well. And so I'm just going to not have carbs for this meal. And, I was like, okay, well, I've been doing it all week. So maybe if I don't do it, they're not going to be like, no, you have to. So I didn't have carbs for lunch. I think it was. I didn't have carbs for lunch. And then later that day, we were like one of the most active activities throughout the entire week. We were down at the beach, and we were fishing, we were playing volleyball, we were swimming, we were kayaking, like doing all this stuff. And I felt better from not having carbs. And then, all of a sudden it was dinner time, and it was pizza for dinner.
It just seems so insane.
Right? But it's okay, because there was salad on the side. So, so pizza and salad. And I did it again. I said, you know what? I'm not having carbs for dinner. I peeled off the top of the pizza, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, oh, well, you know what? What if I am crazy? Like, anyways, I had the top of the pizza, and I had more energy than I had the entire week. Like I wasn't wanting to like just like lay down and just not do it. Like I wanted to be active, and all of a sudden I was like, this is just, I don't know why I didn't do it the whole week. But
and then you mentioned it to her as you were helping the kids.
Yes. And I went up to her. I went up to my nurse, and I was like, so hey, so you see how active I am right now, right? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, so I didn't have carbs for lunch. I'm not having carbs right now. So I'm not having carbs for breakfast either. Like, and she's like, okay, that's fine with me. And I'm like, why didn't I just do this all week long? And, I was told that I needed a doctor's note to be able to do it next year.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm gonna get a doctor.
Wow. It's amazing how backwards things are. I don't know if you guys saw, but I did an interview with this guy, Jeff, who's got stage 4 cancer. And he has a similar thing when he goes in to get his chemo treatments. It was the most shocking thing to him. They come out with trays of cookies and ensure.
Yeah.
For cancer, people treating cancer, it's just, and then like you guys were saying earlier, it's hospital food, and then senior citizens too, like in retirement homes. It's Ensure and sugar, and it's completely backwards from what should be happening. It's really kind of crazy.
Well, it's so weird because in a way it makes a little bit of sense, because you're going somewhere to get your medication and to like heal, but they're giving you things that are doing the opposite of that, and so you stay there longer and you end up spending more money on treatment. And that's that's their job, and you get paid for your job. And it's like once we put the pieces together, we were like, oh my God.
Yeah, look what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy too, because so Jeff was saying he turned me on to Professor Seafried, the cancer researcher out of Boston, and one of the things Seafried was saying was we're trying to do this with kids. Like a lot of the things you're having success with the type 1 diabetes, and it's more effective and it's easier for you to do it. It could be the same thing with kids that are going through cancer if they were fasting and doing keto. And people were saying, no, we can't do that. That's too dangerous for the kids. Having keto is too dangerous, but we can give them chemo and we can give them radiation and we can give them medicine. But eating the proper human diet, nope, that's too dangerous. It's crazy how backwards things are.
And mac and cheese and chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it blows my mind. That whole thing where it's like, can we, like, is anybody looking at why it's dangerous? I had to, because there's so much pushback. And it's another reason why I appreciate you guys, because it's like, I didn't realize how much pushback there was, like constant, like this new article says keto kills you. And I was like, what? Like,
based on what?
Yeah, like for me, I'm like, who are you honestly giving this thing? Like for me, is this an honest try that you're giving this thing? Because it sounds to me like maybe there wasn't an honest try going on there, you know?
Yeah. Or you look at the bottom and it's sponsored by Kellogg's or Pop-Tarts or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
That doesn't make sense.
Should have seen my face when I found that stuff out. There was a video that I saw, and it was like, did you know that like half the stuff you buy is only like 12 companies that are all in this like
it's all sugar.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
You know, it's crazy. I halfway, like as a parent, I like to feel guilty about everything. So I partly also still feel guilty for like, she doesn't get to have the blissful ignorance. And I'm like, the poor kid's traumatized, which is not all this information now, you know, like
there's good and bad side.
She's 16 now, it's fine. But I mean, I slowly, you know, I'm like, yeah, it's like, it's hard to kind of know how well it works and then have so many people that we love, you know, and that's a difficult part.
Yeah.
And so now she's starting to like have, you know, feelings there. And I'm like, you just, you know, the word's getting out and hopefully people, you know, at least will take their protein up.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
animal
like,
protein up.
Yeah.
Right.
My, like half of my friends are type 1 diabetics because we all met through diabetes camp. And it's funny because I've known them for so long. It's been 7 years because I met all of them around the same time as when I was diagnosed. It's been 7 years since we were little, and we were just these like little spry, little skinny little kids. To now, I am the only one who actually has like normal blood sugar numbers and isn't just like, oh, you know, I have diabetes, but I don't take care. Like it's cool unfortunately, it's cool to my friends to be like, oh yeah, I'm not taking care of my diabetes because I don't care. And I'm like, oh, you cannot do that. Like, I care about you. I want you to be healthy, and you doing this to yourself sucks, but also it sucks for me watching you do it to yourself because it's just unfortunate.
I want to say not all of them, but the thing is that they're not getting any information from their doctors, and that's who most people are you know, getting their information from that they think is vetted. Yeah.
You guys mentioned Dr. Tony Hampton earlier. Has he been kind of one of your online? I always find this with people. They're like, they say my doctor's my doctor, and it turns out to be an online doctor because unfortunately that's sometimes the only place you can get the info. Has he been one of your go-tos?
I feel like he's still, so Dr. Tony Hampton is new to me as of about 2 months ago. So, but when I found like the tie-in where like he was doing the normal stuff, and then his wife was diagnosed with type 1, I was like, it kind of clicked with me, and I was like, how did I figure this out? And I'm not a doctor. And, you know, like this doctor got the same, you know, thing going on at home and then put the pieces together. It took me a while. But as far as Dr. Tony Hampton, I just feel like, I don't know. I don't know him, but yes, I watch some of his stuff, and I highly, highly recommend his 2 videos that he requires his patients to watch. And if we can link those somehow, I feel like that is for anybody who wants to start or at least see why. He has a why video. You don't have to do anything. You know, he goes through the whole false information stuff and you know.
Yeah. I watched his video actually when she found Tony Hampton, and she had been doing all like looking into like why carnivore isn't dangerous and why people are trying to tell you that it's dangerous, and what they're telling you that it's dangerous because of. And so I was concerned about the whole cholesterol thing for a while. But I watched Tony Hampton's video and it cleared up so much stuff for me, and it's very easy. It's very simple. He has this visual about the cholesterol and pictures and stuff, and he explains it like flat out. And all of a sudden I was like, it felt like, like a weight was like lifted off my shoulders. I was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense now. Now I don't have to be anxious about people trying to scare me into not doing carnivore because, your cholesterol is bad. So
that's wonderful. Yeah, he's the best. He's the greatest. I have so much respect for doctors like him, like Dr. Tony Hampton in particular, because he's genuine. I believe he's genuinely going online and sharing this information because he's a good person and he cares. That guy has so many patients in a day. So he does all of that work, and then afterwards he's sharing this information with other people because he knows how important it is. He's a really good guy.
It's cool.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, one other thing. Sorry,
Go
Adam.
ahead,
I just want to say one other thing real quick.
Yep.
On the diabetes camp, it just gave me a really good idea. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a carnivore camp we could go to?
I was. Oh my gosh, that's like a dream. That is the dream.
So after that happened, I brainwashed my. I've been a single mom forever until 2 years ago. So I met my. I can't read the comments, or I'll get distracted. I met my guy 2 years ago. Brainwashed him into carnivore. And so now he has all the benefits, all the benefits of carnivore. And he's like, why isn't everybody? So he's doing the whole, thing. And
it's fun to watch him.
And he was, well, the cool thing about him is that he was pushing 500 pounds. So he's down, 100 or something.
Wow.
And so, yeah, he's in the threes. And I'm just like, yeah, this is what happens, And but after that happened, like he kind of saw I was pretty, I'm the mom, so I'm I got a little emotional, and I was like, can't believe this is happening to my kid. We did this, she reversed all her stuff, and they're making her eat the thing that makes her sick, and he's like, why don't we just start our own camp? And I was like, okay,
so cool.
Well, it takes a crazy person to do something like that, so you know what? I don't know. It could be a thing.
Hey, joking aside, it's a brilliant idea because we're just doing a couple of videos with Emma. Everyone's like, how do I get my kids? How do I do this? And part of it's the peer pressure. It's hard, like for Emma. I don't know for you, Ella, if it's tough, but Emma with her friends and going to school, it's kind of okay because she was vegan for a while. So she was already kind of the weird one. And then she switched to carnivore. But you kind of have it twofold because you're doing carnivore and you have the type 1 diabetes.
Yeah. It's so weird. I ended up just starting public school, and there I'm gonna shout out, there's this one girl at school, she's so sweet. She had brought me lunch for a while because the food that they were giving people at lunch, there was always vegan options, never options for me. Everything that was meat was breaded, so I ended up skipping lunch for like a couple weeks. And it's usually
you can.
Usually it's okay. Like, but I would be waking up early and I would, forget to cook breakfast. It was a whole ordeal, but she was bringing me like meat and cheese, like deli stuff, string cheese. And oh my gosh, that's kind of how I got through that. She was like vouching for me, even though she doesn't do carnivore, but she wasn't questioning anything. And I was like, or she wasn't judging me. And it's funny because everybody else at school is like, oh man, you must be so malnourished from having no vegetables. And they don't understand. Like, I can't really talk to anybody about it. There's been a couple kids at school who are like, oh, that's very interesting. I want to learn more about it. And then they go and completely forget about it, which is fine. I spend this energy being like this and this, this is carnivore. It's so cool. This is why you don't have to worry about cholesterol. This is why, this is what carbs do to you. And then I wish that people kind of paid more attention and at least put it somewhere in their brain, put it in a pocket to where they can maybe, consider like understanding at least the cholesterol thing. Cause that's like the main thing that I feel like people are concerned about. But yeah, everybody at school is like concerned about me.
Yeah.
And
Isn't that, it's so frustrating too with that cholesterol thing, because it's like, If you have poor metabolic health and chronic inflammation, you're 6 times more likely to have heart disease. Everyone has that. Like everyone at your school, I'm sure they're eating cupcakes and candy and
Donuts for breakfast.
yeah.
Donuts.
It's normal.
From the school.
It's
Deep
normal.
fried birthday cake. Deep fried birthday cake is normal. And Ella, you're crazy for eating meat.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Everything's backwards.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's crazy. But now
sure.
now I'm getting like special lunches, which is funny because it's like the driest chicken you will ever see, but it's something. And yeah, it's so funny because for a while I kind of felt out of place. Like eating carnivore, not being able to eat with my friends. There's been a couple times where they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so good. You should try this." And I have to be like, "No, sorry. I don't do well with that kind of food." And they're like, "What do you mean? It's a red pear. It's like a red cherry flavored pear." It was weird.
It was double fruit.
I know. I
fruited-
was like, "What kind of
fruited
mixture
fruit.
what is this for again?" Why did we
Is that
make this?
food?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So but now I'm kind of like knowing how I feel. It way overpowers the peer pressure. I feel cool. I feel cool being
Yeah.
carnivore.
Well, and
Nice.
I should mention like it is so tricky, Kerry, because she's type 1 diabetic. She's what they say, that the doctor at the hospital is that she has a higher risk of the
autoimmune.
but she has a higher risk of the cholesterol issues, like the dangers of cholesterol, right? So because of that, they're very worried about her cholesterol right now. And 2 months ago, maybe 3, they recommended that she go on statins at age 16.
Wow.
So that was fun. So I, every time something like this happens, I get all heated and I'm like, where's the data? Where's the information? I have to go find it again because it's been years. It's not like a new thing where I have to, it's like I forgot. I already know what we're doing. This has been going on for a long time.
But then you forget
now
you
to
have
go
to
pull
tell
the data
people
again. And
to vouch for yourself that you're not like
Right.
And I do I refresh. I actually watch stuff that disagrees with me as well. Otherwise, what would I, where would I, how would I know?
Yeah, that's how
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
got here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
It's so good you're digging in and being diligent and questioning yourself. And then on the flip side, though, it's kind of crazy how it's basically everything they're telling you. It's just like, I just do the opposite and I would have been 100 times better.
yeah.
Go on a statin, don't
Mhm.
go on a statin. Eat this candy and sugar, no, don't eat the candy and sugar. It's just like crazy
exactly-
living in a world. It's all opposite.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, and then when you find out like it's another opposite, like as the opposites stack up, you're like, can it be this much opposite? Like, how is not some of what they're saying like good? Like
Mhm.
it's so weird.
Yeah, for sure. We got a few comments here that we'll run through. And if anybody watching has any questions for Ella or Rachel, please post them in the comments with a Q at the beginning, and we'll get to those as soon as we can. So, Kerry, it looks like you have a new member, Nancy.
Awesome. Thank you, Nancy.
And the dude abides says, I was type 1 diabetic and ended up with kidney failure. I've been transplanted with new kidneys and pancreas. I'm no longer diabetic, but I wish that I would have gone carnivore before all of that.
Like it's
Wow.
it's like it's so hard to see the stuff where it's too late,
Mm-hmm.
And then the new there's so much information on surgeries and procedures to do, that you can get, and so but a lot of people will be like, well, can she get a pancreas transplant? We do know people who've done that, and you're taking pills all the time so that anti-rejection stuff, so your body doesn't reject the pancreas, the new pancreas, right? And yeah, it's
I didn't know that.
there's a lot of stuff I haven't told you yet. There's a lot of damage that happens just once you get to the point where you need the new pancreas. It's like so much damage is already done. So I really, my heart goes out to.
This is why we're out here talking about it, because if you don't talk about it, then people can't prevent things like that, because that's the main goal, is to like help people and let them know. Yeah, the prevention. Let them know that this is an option and this is something that can help you if you just try it out.
Yeah, our main thing is, or at least for me, I should speak for myself, is that when you're told that these are your choices, you're not really making a choice, because if there's another option, you're really being told kind of what to do rather than being given options, right?
Yeah.
So when
That's true.
when the diet is not offered, when there's not even like any low carb support at the initial diagnosis, you're not actually able to make that choice. And so it's like, my thing is, if you can see this is an option and you say no, then you've made your choice.
Mhm.
But if you are not given this as an option, you don't even have a choice to say no to it. And, or yes.
Mhm.
And what I've seen a lot as a parent, in the adult type 1 groups, because that's kind of like where I'm looking now to kind of look into the future for her, is so many people are saying, basically they're very frustrated, and they're like, I can't believe I wasn't told about this. And I hear that so many times in the people that are now low carb, or keto or carnivore, the whole thing. It's like they didn't even know it was an option because it was too dangerous.
Mm.
Yep.
So
We just like, the info is so important to like get out there, even if people don't like want to do it, we just need to get it out there so that they know that it's an option.
yeah.
For sure. Daryl says, "You give me hope. I can do this. Thank you." There
Nice.
you go, Ella.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say real quick, I love what you guys are saying about putting it out there as an option. Not to be a broken record, but my friend Jeff with the stage 4 cancer, he had that same message. It's like he's finding that fasting and doing carnivore is really helping with his chemo, and there's a lot of evidence out there for it. And he's just saying, I'm not telling everyone you have to fast and do carnivore. I just want it as an option so people can make their own choice. They can do chemo. They can say, it's a dumb option, I don't want to do it. But just like you're saying, exactly, for cancer patients too, none of them know this is an option. The only option they're given is, here's chemo or here's medicine, and then here's your cookies afterwards. So
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that that carnivore and fasting is making his treatments more effective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you need to use the medical, system for their procedures and their, treatments and things, you could be taking less medication and get, having all that junk out of the way, and all of the, all the things are going to be like.
It's funny because it's exactly what happened to me. I used to take like, I think the most amount of insulin I would take for like 20, when I used to eat carbs, like I would eat 20 carbs and I would probably dose like, I forget.
Man, I used to take so much insulin.
I used to take
10
like
years. So I
never
forget. It was in the hundreds per day.
Yeah. I never take more than like 4 units at a time ever. Like, and if my blood sugar goes above range, I'm taking like 1.5 units and it goes right back down. And it's crazy because before, if I was like 200, I would need to take like 8 units. And now, and it's funny because yes, you can be type 1 diabetic. And I don't know if I can say that I was insulin resistant.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to use that kind of term.
I don't think I was insulin resistant, but I noticed that my body's more susceptible, sensitive to the insulin now that I'm doing carnivore, even as a type 1 diabetic. So technically, yes, I'm taking like less medicine because I'm carnivore.
It's more effective.
Yeah, it's way more effective.
That's so interesting. Wow. And are there any other things too? Like, so you're taking less medicine, but are there any other symptoms? Like, are you less fatigued or tired? I know there's some of that because of carnivore, but do you think, are there other side effects of taking more insulin?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think
you get really chubby.
Oh gosh.
No.
I mean, well, insulin, it's a fat storing hormone. And so when I used to take a lot of insulin and eat the carbs, how old was I? It was like 13. When I was 13, I wasn't chubby, but I was a little overweight, and you could see I was very puffy, very swollen. And I noticed and when I go back to eating carbs, I'm swollen, I'm swollen and I feel itchy, and it's just this weird sensation just throughout my body. And also I feel like I'm floating. I think I've mentioned that in multiple videos that I've done with other people and Adam, that I just feel like I'm floating in space. There's no like there's like no like purpose for me to like do anything that like motivates me. But as soon as I get a steak in, like even if I was doing carbs and I just like had a steak, you know, even if you're doing carbs, just eating more meat, just in general.
We're like, eat the steak.
It's so like it just fuels
And
you.
pay attention. Like
Yeah.
pay attention. Eat the steak and pay attention.
Yeah,
And don't
take
put
notes.
barbecue sauce all over it
Yeah.
if you can help it.
Yeah,
You know?
steak is good by itself.
Like, eat the steak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your body will thank you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think like the brain fog probably for her.
Yeah,
And
in the brain.
just
fog.
and also like some of the way that she describes stuff to me, I don't know what she's talking about, but she's really good at describing things to me because I mean, after all these kind of like scares, she's like, what's this feeling? What's that feeling? You know, to make sure we get it like taken care of if we need to go in or if I need to do research. So the I just lost my thought.
Get it back.
What was I saying?
You were saying symptoms. We're talking about symptoms.
Oh, the stuff that she describes. Thank you, Ella. It makes me think of you know how depression can kind of like sneak in that way slowly.
Mhm.
I kind of have. She somehow didn't have to deal with that like through her teen years, and I've always kind of been on the lookout because I did, you know. And her bio dad also did. So I've always been like, that better not happen to my kid. You know, that's scary, like to have it in my child.
Right.
So like the scariest thing for me. So this whole thing is just like, oh my gosh, you are not dealing with depression, you know, it's a big deal.
I never had to deal with depression, thank goodness. But I did have a little bit of anxiety, and I noticed that it gets a lot better after carnivore too. Like, you know, because it's the all your mental stuff just gets better. I'm not worrying so much about things, and I feel like that's completely linked to food.
Yeah,
100%.
For sure.
Yep.
Here's the next question. Ella, do you know any other type 1 diabetics who follow low carb, keto, or carnivore diet?
There are not in person, not that I know personally yet. I don't think.
I just met the mom of that
Oh,
6-year-old.
you did? Oh, you met
The
her?
6-year-old boy.
Okay, well then she does. I know that there's people online on YouTube who are type 1 diabetic and go low carb.
There are a few groups where
Yeah.
you can talk to other people who are doing it. Yes.
But
But not in person.
not in person, no. But Tame type 1, he's type 1. He does low carb. He does keto, I think. And I was in
Justin.
Yes.
Okay, Justin has a channel. It's called Tame Type 1 for anybody who's
Mhm.
looking for
He gives really good advice.
older interviews, like 5-year-old interviews of people who were doing this as type 1 diabetics. He has like 30 interviews with different people that are type 1 who are either low carb, keto, or carnivore. And that information was amazing.
Mhm.
Amazing. Well, I was worried about damaging her and, you know, causing her some other, you know, scary thing.
He even has a
Changing her
video.
diet.
He even has a video on how to do low carb at summer camp, which I wish that I looked at it before I went. But yeah. So I looked at it afterwards. I'm like, well, what the heck?
Yeah.
Wow. So next question is, my friend's husband all of a sudden became a diabetic type 1. She told me he could not do keto or carnivore because with his diagnosis, he cannot be in ketosis. Do you know what that means?
Yes.
Oh man. Okay.
So, did they say ketosis?
Okay,
Ketosis.
listen. So,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. When you're diagnosed with diabetes,
You can tell we're passionate about this.
they get you scared to death. Yeah, they get you scared to death of ketoacidosis, which is
Mm.
where you
Ketoacidosis.
ketoacidosis, where you can
DKA.
lose your life very quickly.
I was in diabetic ketoacidosis.
when we took you in because she wasn't diagnosed quick enough.
Ketones.
So ketones, there are nutritional ketones and there are ketones from DKA, and they're not the same. And when people who don't do deeper research hear keto, they immediately think of ketoacidosis, and that's dangerous and you can't do that. because you're diabetic, so you could die. And so it's kind of understandable for people to say that, but sadly
But
you
it's
have to
misinformation.
dig deeper, because ketosis is
Ketosis is a
not
nutritional.
it's not ketoacidosis. And because the words sound the same, I feel like people just kind of mix that up, and they think of ketosis as a dangerous thing for diabetics. And that's another issue with like, it takes so long to start using it, and with a diabetic.
Yeah. So ketosis.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in ketosis because I've tested my ketones before. The difference between like ketoacidosis ketones and ketosis ketones is how you feel. So if you feel, because you can feel it when you're in diabetic ketoacidosis, you're like very close to not life. So like you feel nauseous, like you just feel like you're not there. You are
Very
not there.
sick.
Very, very sick. So if I'm testing on my ketone meter and I feel like I do now, then that's how I know that I'm in ketosis. So if I notice like when I get sick, because sometimes, I'll get like a seasonal bug, my ketones go up a little bit more, and, people are concerned about that. But when it's nutritional ketones from ketosis, not ketoacidosis, you're fine.
Yeah.
Especially like as a type 1 diabetic, I know that.
Yeah, I
I'm fine.
was scared to death. There was so many times when I was scared to death about changing her diet.
You were good at hiding it.
Yeah, well, So I had to stay strong, but I have a blood ketone meter for her because I needed to know her ketone numbers, and as we were shifting over to low carb for her and then carnivore, and as her ketones went up, I would talk to her, and I was ready to turn back around anytime. Like, it wasn't like you try the diet and then it's dangerous and then you don't make it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, you can do one day. Like, you can just do it for one day. Check the ketones, look at the person and kind of go,
Assess from there.
are these ketones the kind that make you want to go to the hospital right now?
Yeah.
No? Okay. You look really happy. Like, it's funny because it was total opposite. She'd be like, I feel great. And I'm like, but your ketones are high.
Yeah, I
went
don't
through
feel
that.
like I have ketones, but
I went
we were
through that.
associating it with, ketoacidosis, but now I know that.
And I went through that alone. So it's nice to be able to say it to somebody because it was very scary.
Yeah. I was at school a couple days ago, and there's one of my classmates is also type 1 diabetic. Always 300 and 400, but
Wow.
because I've heard it a couple times. Diabetics are like, I feel good when I'm high, like, because we would rather not be low, but it's hard to stay in that middle because of how much carbs they're eating. They can't stay in the middle, so they'd rather be high than be low. But I was telling him that I'm doing keto because I don't want to scare him, and so he was like, oh, that's bad. Ketones are bad for diabetics. I'm like, oh, I know this, but I don't think you understand. And he cut me off, and he's like, yeah, I know. I wouldn't do that if I were you. And I'm like, how are you telling me? I have
4 years.
for 4 years, I have blood sugars that are 80 to 100 and like 10. And you have blood sugars that are like 400. Why are you telling me this? And
The crazy thing is that
but I feel for these people. I do.
when she's starting to understand like the risks of the kind of risks that come with high blood sugars so often, or even like the roller coaster that comes with type 1. If you're not low carb, you kind of get the roller coasters, and the kind of long-term damage that happens for young adults, for just people as they get older, are very, very similar to type 2. Like, it's the same damage that happens to type 2s.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm going like,
It's the same. It's glucose in the blood.
This
it does
is
the same kind of damage.
Yeah, this is my child. She'll be my child when she's 40. So I also don't want her to like be suffering at 40. So
Right.
I will go ahead and like allow her to see this. If she wants to, I think you guys mentioned this at some point. If she wants to trail off and do something different, she'll remember this. She
Yes.
She feels it immediately though. So she I don't know what she'll trail off because she's just like, I don't feel good. I ate that thing, and now
We
you
we went to a wedding yesterday, and I think it was guacamole and like salsa, and oh my gosh,
last night she just wouldn't leave me alone.
I was
I'm
like,
go
oh,
to bed.
I feel so sick.
It's because you ate the
Guacamole
food.
and salsa. Yeah, and even though there's like this like 1, maybe 2 carbs in a serving, I'm still like
It's probably because it was pre-made,
you know, but like you can
fake,
tell,
maybe,
you can tell like the fake food, and it's like your body telling you like, hey, this is an alert. You're not supposed to eat that.
Right.
Oh, if
Mhm.
your body's clean, it tells you that.
Yeah. Yeah. Your body kind of gets used to it when you're eating carbs.
Yep, and you can go back. I mean,
Yep.
it'll adjust to going back, but you also get your crap back,
Yeah.
your pains and stuff.
It's funny because people who are trying to stick to carnivore, if there's anyone out there who's trying to stick to it and is having trouble and keeps going back, I went back like 10 times. Like we would have like cheat days, and it's a journey to like get to that like part of your brain that understands finally why you should do this like every day, or at least that's how it was for me. I'm like, oh, now I know why this is good for me and what this normal food does to you. And so I can see that imagery happening when I like ingest anything that is not like carnivore or low carb, and it's too much for me. And I'm like no, I would rather I choose life. it's not that deep, but like you have to have that mindset where it's like I choose my health over having this cupcake. Like,
And
it's
it
not worth
doesn't
it.
taste-
It's not worth it.
It doesn't taste.
It doesn't taste the same either. There are these electrolyte mixes. These they're Element, right?
Mm.
I love Element, but it's so funny because I had one like a couple months ago, and I put it in my drink, and I was drinking. I'm like, wow, this is really sweet. I gave it to my friend, and she's like, this is really salty. Like I don't really like this. And I was like, this is like dessert. It's so sweet.
It's like sugar.
Yeah, and so
Fake
now
sugar,
I
too.
have to do like barely any in my drink if I want electrolytes, because I think it's the stevia in there or something, but
Yeah.
I
Well, they have it-
rarely ever have them.
They have it unflavored.
And yeah, that's the one that I would rather have those, because just the flavor is so intense.
Yeah. That's super.
Yeah. Yeah, your senses when you're carnivore too just get like really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's smelling all kinds of things now, and I'm just like,
I
oh,
smelled
I
the
think it's
downstairs
carnivore.
neighbor's dinner last night. I was like, the room smell like Mexican food, and I was like on the floor, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can smell food.
I've created a monster.
That's
That's
funny.
awesome.
I feel like I have superpowers.
Absolutely. Let's shift gears for a second. You had some other challenges in the past with a condition called Graves' disease. Can you kind of maybe let the viewers know kind of exactly what that is briefly, and then what you did to kind of help that situation?
Yes. So what year was it?
2019 in August, you had the heart attack
So
feeling.
I was 12, and I started. I think this is when like the panic attacks started coming. We ended up calling them Graves attacks, but I would have these symptoms where all of a sudden my chest would get numb, and it would feel like it was caving in, or like something inside of me was like sucking my chest in, and it would get itchy up to here. And so I would like scratch it, and all of a sudden I just felt like very, very panicked. And so we went to urgent care one time, and
By the time they saw us,
by the time they saw us, I had calmed down a little bit. So they couldn't really see like the peak of it, but it was really bad. Like I honestly thought that I was going to die. I was like, I've never felt this before. This is this weird panic attack thing. When we got there, they checked my vital signs. They're like, you're fine. You probably just had a panic attack.
just anxiety.
Just anxiety. It was just anxiety. And so, that happened for like a few more months after that. And then my endo appointment, we had told my endocrinologist, we were like, hey, so I've been having these anxiety attacks. And it doesn't feel like normal. It doesn't feel, well, anxiety is not supposed to feel normal, but like, it doesn't feel like a normal, like anxiety attack. It felt way worse, something way worse than that. And it turns out that I had Graves' disease, or hyperthyroidism. So it's funny because a lot of people are talking about hypothyroidism and low carb, but I had hyperthyroidism. So they told me that my hormones weren't balanced and I was making too much. We're not good with the numbers.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in a little while, so I can't give you the medical stuff.
That's
But
fine.
whatever it was her numbers were. She actually requires annual labs with type 1 diabetes, because when you're diagnosed with type 1, they tell you that you're at higher risk for additional autoimmune disorders, diseases, and then if you get another one, your risk for more goes up, like as the numbers of diagnosis that you get goes up. So I was expecting kind of something, but that she was required to have the labs done, and so when they ran the labs, they said, "Hey, she's looking like she may have something called Graves' disease," and they ran her labs every 2 weeks for about 3 months to watch those numbers. And I had no idea about anything. And I remember thinking I was on the edge of getting her from keto to carnivore at the time, at the end of 2019, but I wasn't sure yet because of the cholesterol and the everything else. And so they're telling her that it's getting, every time I talk to them every 2 weeks, they'd say, "Yep, it's looking like she's gonna," and I'm like, "Does she have to have meds though? Like, is there another way?" And I kept saying, "Is there anything else?" And they're like, "Nope, we only have meds." I mean, you guys, I asked 100 times,
And they scared us so bad.
so they're scared. I think that they legitimately, that's the information they have.
Wow.
So, you know what I mean? So the heart attack thing scared me to death.
Well, that's what I explained, is that I felt like I was having a heart attack, even though I've never had one. I don't know what it feels like.
We just say that because that's what she called it. So she didn't have a heart attack.
Yeah, no. But yeah, it was a Graves. It was just like a really intense, anxiety attack, I guess. But they were not pleasant, and I noticed that they would happen after a meal, after a meal that I would cheat on, or if I would have ice cream or soda or pasta or bread or anything with carbs in it,
Which was rare.
rare. But whenever I did, all of a sudden it would just flare up, and it was a very scary experience. And so feeling that experience and then going to the doctor and then telling me that if I didn't take this medication, I would die in 18 months. They said, "You're going to die in 18 months.
Did they say that?
Yes, I remember.
Okay.
They
Wow.
said that, yeah, and if you don't take this medication, and I was like, oh my gosh.
So
That's insane.
yeah, it was the very last lab that we had run. They said she needs medication now. She's at the point where she needs it, and we're gonna put this through for you so that you can go pick it up. And I'm just like, I get it that you're not. I get it that you're saying she has to. So I said to her the very last minute, and I should have just done it earlier. The very last lab where they're like, "You have to take the meds now. This is extremely dangerous." And I said, "Do you want to take these meds that they're going to give to us, and then have your labs done in 2 weeks, or do you want to try carnivore right now, immediately?" And I gave her the risks that come along with the meds, and I told her what I knew about carnivore, and she was already, ketovore basically. She when I remember back, she was goofing off a little bit because it was around the holidays. so it was, there's some of that stuff going on. So anyway, she just went carnivore, and that was the very end of 2019. And they ran her labs, and they said, I think it was the seventh blood test. They said her blood test shows that she's negative for Graves. And
Good job.
and I remember being in total shock, and I said, because I remember thinking this better work, and it better not be some other diet that adds berries or adds, vegetables, something like that Graves patients need, because then that'll be the opposite of what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
It ended up being the same diet that works for her type 1 that made it magically. I had them resend me all the labs. I'm like, am I imagining this?
Funny,
Nobody said anything. Nobody told us. They just said it was dangerous. And
the notes on my lab tests are, multiple times, as my levels get lower and lower for Graves, the doctor's like, "Good work, keep it up, keep taking that methimazole, keep taking that." And I never ever took it.
yeah, I still have the
All I
bottle.
was doing What? Oh man, we were having. This is when steak was a little cheaper than it was now.
Yeah,
But
we
were
had a lot
having
of steak back then.
and like pork chops, lots of chicken. Like, man, it was a blast. And she was doing all the cooking. Like that was the whole thing. She was just cooking all day,
Yeah.
and it saved my life.
Mm.
I would not be here today if I honestly I don't think if we didn't do carnivore.
I don't know.
Wow.
It's scary stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what they, tried to make us feel like, if you didn't take the medicine, then, this will happen to you.
I feel like that's what they believe. And, it's like their education, I guess, isn't gonna, if people aren't curious enough, either doctors or patients, their information is only going to come from the one place that they're looking or whoever's sending it down to them, and they're not going to kind of branch off and go like, what else is out there?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think most doctors mean well and they have good intentions, but they're also supposed to not do any harm. And then when you have information like this, you can be doing a lot of harm to people when you're only giving them that one option. I just think it's funny too. I guess it's not funny, but if your doctor, when you were supposed to be taking those meds, could have seen you just having this party eating steaks, like, forget the meds, we're just doing this. And then look what happened. Your results were amazing. That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. Did we tell them that I was doing carnivore or?
We don't use the word carnivore at the doctor's.
Oh yeah, that's a little,
And also,
it's a little bit taboo.
I've been a single mom, and there's like fear of people like thinking that you're just randomly going like treating your kid like they don't have the illness. Like, no, my kid's fine. I'm not gonna change anything. It's like, no, actually, changing diet it seems like this magical thing now because people don't believe it, right? How did the battery get that
I do
low?
not know. I think we gotta plug it in. We went from 100 battery to 10 battery.
Is there a longer recording?
Oh wow.
I can go get one.
I don't know. Depends on where we are on time.
That Kerry, how much time you got?
I got a little bit
I'm
more
good.
time.
Okay, yeah, I got plenty of time.
Okay.
So-
Yeah.
You want to go get that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to go grab a battery, that'd be cool.
Sorry, we're newbies.
No
All
worries.
Okay.
So how was your adventure today with your dog suit, Kerry?
Should I put the hat on? I was gonna wear it down here. I don't want to scare anyone. No, it was great. It was really fun. I'm thankful JT lended me. For anyone that's listening and doesn't know, we have our small town movie theater here. We're playing Paw Patrol, and our friend JT let me use his Marshall dog costume, which it's not a costume, it's like a mascot with the full head and everything. So yeah, I wore that yesterday and today and Sunday. It was fun. It was really fun. Like I thought when JT said, I was like, yeah, this would be cool, but no, it was really fun. The kids were just big smiles on their face. Everyone wanted to get their picture taken, and yeah, I enjoyed it too. We got a little video. We did a short of it a while ago, just having some fun with it. But yeah,
That's awesome. Did you
It's
sign
great.
any autographs?
no. A cute little kid came up and gave me a dog bone though, so that was kind of exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you eat it?
No, not yet. I'm saving it for after.
I mean, technically it's carnivore, right?
Right.
That's good stuff. So what did you know about Graves' disease before tonight? I really didn't know much at all until Ella revealed that to me.
I was thinking something like autoimmune disorder, but I really didn't know anything about it at all. It's crazy. And type 1 diabetes, frankly, I knew kind of, but not as much. I'm much more familiar with type 2 diabetes. And yeah, hey, I got a quick something to talk about on type 2 diabetes. I did a video a couple weeks back about continuous glucose monitors. I mentioned it.
Yeah.
Oh, I got yelled at. I got fired up. I want to clear up what I said in there too. I was like, it's crazy we live in a world with these things where type 2 diabetics, like my family, I have some family. One of them has one of those continuous glucose monitors. And every time I see him, is it like a birthday party or family reunion? Every time he's eating birthday cake and drinking Pepsi. And that was what happened last time. And every time he's like, oh, let me check my numbers. Oh, geez, it's way over. I'm like, what's the point of the monitor if every single time you go over? And it's kind of funny, but it's not. He's actually lost a good portion of his foot. He's going to have his whole foot amputated. And
That's sad.
So my point in that video was like, I totally understand for type 1 diabetes, and Ella, what you're doing, that's got to be amazing. I was just saying, what kind of a world do we live in where people with type 2 diabetes get these things and then they're just like, yep, and they continue to drink the Pepsi and eat. I'm like, I'm sitting there eating steak. I don't have type 2 diabetes. My metabolic health is perfect. Technically, I could eat a birthday cake and I would probably be just fine. This guy could eat a birthday cake and lose his foot. I'm like, just why does he need this? Just stop it. So that was my little rant on that thing.
Yeah.
I totally see there's a purpose for people with type 1 diabetes and people that are using it to actually manage things rather than just, oh well, it went over. Numbers are huge again.
Well, it's you go first. Well, it's funny because my friend from school, he's the kind, there's different kinds of glucose monitors. Mine, thank goodness, I don't have to beep it. I don't have to like touch it to the thing for it to like, it's continuous. It's actually continuous, and it's like testing me all the time. It
every 3 minutes.
Every 3 minutes.
The update.
But for his, it's the kind that he has to do it. And so he can eat Skittles and then dose for them. And then he'll test and he'll be like, oh, well, I'm 350. I'll just take more insulin. And he's type 1. And that's the thing. And I'm like, if you're using it for the right reasons to like see, I wish that everybody had a glucose monitor, honestly.
That's how I feel. I feel like I wish everybody
because
had
then
one.
they could see the behind the scenes of how your insulin are working, how the carbs are working,
Right.
and how protein works. Oh, this echoes. But yeah.
I fixed it.
Okay.
We have to kick somebody out of the chat.
Oh,
Okay. They should be gone now. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Okay.
hey,
Yeah.
while we're doing that, I just had one other question. It's so awesome. Like, I was going to ask you all these questions being 16 and doing carnivore, but on the flip side, one of the big things with carnivore is it sustainable? And you've been doing it for 4 years, which is crazy. Adam and I are going to be meeting with Maggie, who's the 82-year-old carnivore. She's been doing it for 60 years, which is, I can't wait to talk to her. But what's that?
With the farm?
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. The ranch.
Wow.
Yep. She raises her own beef. So how, like, one thing, it's so exciting how fired up and passionate you are about carnivore after 4 years. I love seeing that because I'm only at 6 months here. But what do you think in terms of like people that are saying carnivore isn't sustainable? There's no way you can maintain it. Do you feel like you're going to do it for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I do. I do. I mean, science is always changing, and I can't say, I don't want to be the kind of person who's just like, oh yes, I know, like, what I'm going to do in my future. But with the way that things are looking right now, I want to do this forever. I think it's very sustainable. I was fortunate enough to have, this one buying the food. But now that I'm kind of getting older and seeing like the financial side of things, I just want to clear things up. When you're doing carnivore, you're spending so little money on everything else that you have all this money for meat and all the other kind of stuff. And so it's a lot more sustainable financially. And I feel like, if you have a carb addiction, I didn't really have an addiction, I don't think. I was a kid. I didn't really know like what that was or what that meant. But people who have carb addictions, it can be hard like getting in the flow of things, and it's okay to mess up sometimes. But I would say it's a very sustainable once your taste buds change and you get like into the groove of things. It's amazing. All my meals, I look forward to all my meals. They taste good. Like, I'm not wanting anything else. I'm always eating ground beef, and that's the thing that I crave. I crave ground beef. I want ground beef and butter and eggs and steak. And even with just that, and sometimes we'll have chicken. You don't have to have all this crazy. You don't have to have it would be great to have like a stash of steaks or like like a big chicken, like, and know how to cook. There are easy ways to do it. So whatever kind of situation you're in, I feel like yes, it can be sustainable.
You have to eat what you like.
Yeah, you eat what you like. If you don't like chicken, you don't have to eat chicken, but if you do like beef, you can eat beef. And if you like pork, you eat pork. It's just like, there's so many. Oh, and seafood too. Oh my gosh, I forgot about seafood. I love seafood. Eating meat has so many nutrients, and there's so many different kinds. People are like, there's not a lot of options there.
Yeah.
I'm like, Are you kidding me? We have a grocery list that's like this long of all different kinds of
Well,
meat.
The other thing I tell people too is just beef alone. There's options because I used to just think, oh, you're eating a steak. No, you have ribeye, which tastes different than sirloin. That tastes different than filet mignon. It's like tons of different types within there, drastically different. I don't know if that's part carnivore too, because your tastes kind of change. But I totally notice the difference.
Yeah.
It's
You
like a
can
different
tell.
food group altogether.
Yeah, totally. And there's different ways. You can eat ground beef. You can eat steak. You can have what are they called? The stuff that you put in
Sous vide?
sous vide. It's like flat steak. It's like flat and
Mhm.
white. It's like taco.
Oh,
Oh yeah, like a skirt steak or flat iron.
Carne asada.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's like different ways to make it, and it's funny because it's all the part of the same animal, but you can make it like taste the different cuts of fat that are in it. Like it's definitely a big thing because I prefer fattier cuts. I just think it tastes better. But yeah, like you can just tell as a carnivore.
I need to butt in for just a second.
Yeah.
I am literally trying to delete this person 1,000 times, and they keep changing their username and putting all kinds of stuff in here. So every time it comes up, I'm deleting it just so everybody knows.
Okay.
It's insane. Like literally, they post 100 comments, and I did get rid of that account, and then they come in on another one. So I'm actually trying to get rid of this stuff. So.
Okay.
Well, we don't see the chat, and we appreciate the background work you're doing. I know
Right.
We
do have one super chat that we need to get to. Ella, how and when do you dose insulin bolus for meals? How did this change WRT high carb diet?
What is
How do you
WRT?
change? Well, I mean, you get the idea of the question.
Yeah. Okay. So, when I was eating a regular carbohydrate diet, every time I would dose, my ratios, I don't really remember them because it's been so long, but I think my ratio was like 1 unit for every, 8.
I think for a type 1, they're probably just asking if you have to change, when you dose, and how and when. I mean, yeah, it's the same. You dose the same time, so you want to dose before.
Yeah. Usually I try to get to my dosages before. Even eating low carb, protein is something that spikes my blood sugar. A lot of different things can spike my blood sugar. But the difference is that I don't spike to like 250. I'll go up to like 130. And so when I'm dosing, usually I'm kind of new at the whole dosing for protein thing. It's a little scary because I don't want to go low, and but we're trying to figure that out. And usually what I do now is I'll eat, and then if I start going up, I'll dose and I'll up my basal rate. So there's an option on the T-Slim to up your hourly insulin dose. So it'll give you like little drops of insulin throughout the day every hour. I can up that from like 1.5 to 2.5 instead. So that also helps bring my blood sugar down. And then when I'm eating food, I just dose whenever I start going up.
Yeah. So the basal is the constant drip that a pancreas normally does. That's called the basal with the insulin pump. The bolus is for if you're eating and you're going to go up from your meal. So that's what the bolus means there. And we're still learning how to dose for protein, because protein,
carbs are they're quicker. So like is in your blood sugar, you can see it on the graph. It'll go like this and then like that. Because when you're going up, you dose you end up overdosing, and then you go
too low, and that's the whole roller
and then you
coaster.
need sugar again, then you go high. It's like just crazy roller coaster. With protein, it's kind of shrunk a little bit. So like I'll have breakfast. I usually wake up around like 90 or 100, and I'll have breakfast, and then I'll go like this, and then I'll dose, and then I'll up my basal, and then I'll go like this, and then for my next meal, it's just kind of the same thing. I have these bumps throughout the day, but it's never to the extent that it was when I was eating carbs.
Yeah, and it's funny because those highs and lows go along also with your energy. So as you drop down with the type 1 diabetic, you can see the energy also go down. And then in the higher carb life, you also want food again at that point. And so you're going to go up again. But with the protein, it kind of maintains a little bit of a steady raise in blood sugar. So we're trying to figure out how to, so that just lasts longer. So you're seeing the energy last longer, but also the raise in the blood sugar lasts a little longer with the protein instead of carbs. And so we're learning how to kind of try to keep that down instead of chasing a high that comes down fast. We're learning how to you kind of just have to look into it. Like, Tame Type 1 does have a video on that. We're supposed to be paying more attention to that, but her blood sugars are so good that it's kind of like, oh, we're fine.
Yeah. And
we need to be more proactive there.
Yeah, we definitely pay more attention in that aspect. But I wanted to say my continuous glucose monitor has an option where you can change your range. So there's an option to be 200 and not get alerts, and you can change it from your phone. So we used to have that. We used to have it to where I was like 200 and it wouldn't alert me until I was over 200 exactly. And now I think it was like at the beginning of this year, I realized that I don't need that anymore. And so I just had like my high be at like 180, and continuously we've taken it down. Now my high, now it alerts me when I'm over 120. So I never get to that extent of, I'm like 250 and doubling up, obviously, because I'm not having carbs, but it'll alert me even though I'm not having any carbs, so that I can dose for when I'm over 120.
Nice. What I had one other question. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting carnivore?
I would say, it's so funny because she is very educated on everything. I still have a lot to learn, even though we've done it for 4 years. I could definitely spend a lot more of my time, educating myself on it. But that's the thing that I would probably say is there's a million people, not a million, I wish there was, but there's a lot of you're
A lot
right.
of people we don't know that are doing it.
Yeah, people online, doctors, regular people who are doing carnivore and they're sharing their stories. Watch those, and even if you're just doing, even if you're addicted to the sugar and you're having problems getting into it, just upping your animal-based protein can really help you kind of get into the groove of things. So like just doing the opposite of what the doctors say, and adding more red meat into your diet is very helpful. And just do it.
Love it.
Yeah, it's really worth it. I remember I kind of would miss the food sometimes, and but now that I'm actually doing it, I just want people to know, like, that feeling goes away, like, feeling like you're different and not like you're not able to have the food. I think of it differently now. I'm like, instead of, oh, I'm not able to have all these carbs, I'm like, I'm able to have the most delicious plate of ground beef ever and feel awesome afterwards.
It tastes so good.
It tastes so good, especially with butter on the side.
Yes.
And it's funny because when I tell people, I just tell people out in public, I'm like, yeah, I eat butter, like just by itself. They're like, okay, this girl is crazy. But yeah, like it tastes really good. And I'm
just like, Child Protective Services. Like,
yeah,
she's doing it herself now, so I can't, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, just advice for anyone is like, it's very, very, very worth it. And the sooner you can start, the better. Like, just do it.
Yeah, a lot of people that once they figure it out, they wish they knew before.
Yeah.
And like us.
Yeah. And it's okay to have kind of like a bumpy ride in the beginning, because we had a very bumpy ride, especially if you're scared and you don't know what you're doing. But that's why watching these videos and it's nice having this portal into these other people's lives, seeing that they're doing okay and how they're feeling, like, it makes you feel like you're not alone. So you're definitely not alone. It can be scary, but it's for a very, very, very good cause. And yeah, it's amazing.
It fixes so much stuff.
It fixes so much stuff.
And
yeah.
I don't know if she knows this, but Dave Feldman if you're afraid of the cholesterol stuff, which is pretty much the big repeated fear, like don't do it, cholesterol, don't do cholesterol. Dave Feldman is a oh, I forget the title. I forget everything right now. Sorry. But Dave Feldman has so much information on studies on cholesterol, and those are ongoing. And they're funded by, you know, not anybody who's going to make money on drugs. And so I would say, like, look into Dave Feldman's YouTube, whatever you can find, any of the science stuff there. That really helps. He makes it it's easy to understand. Dr. Berry has an interview with him. There's more out there, I'm sure, than I've even seen. So
Question.
oh yeah. If you are afraid of keto because it kills people, so Bart K, if you like the no nonsense, strong personality stuff, that he does really great rebuttals science wise. He is a scientist. And then Dr. Eric Westman has been a low carb doctor for 20 years, and he does these really beautiful, much more calm and
Straightforward.
yeah, really straightforward rebuttal videos that and he has a program called Adapt Your Life for new people who are trying to lean into the keto, like starting to understand it. Dr. Eric Westman does, you know, breaks these videos down and explains why, you know, the wording was put to make you think this thing is scary here, but actually here's the science on it. I've been doing this for 20 years. He has patients. He's active, you know, he like is a Duke professor or something. I don't know. Those are the details I'm bad at, but like it's good stuff. Really amazing. So those are two people I can tell you.
It gets really easy too. Like the farther into it you get, it just gets easier and easier.
Yeah.
You don't have to work as hard. You don't have to worry about all what everybody's trying to tell you why not to do it. Like it gets really easy.
That's why it's so frustrating. I share your guys' frustration. You mentioned earlier when you see friends and family suffering, and then when you've done it, and you're like, it's actually really easy, and you know it's going to work for them. I get it though. A lot of people aren't going to change until they decide to, or they get so desperate that they have to. Sadly, the only really sad thing with that is it may be too late for some of them. Like I had Lee Kopus, Kent Carnivore on, and he lost his colon, and that was his message. He's like, unfortunately, some people are going to wait too long, but then they might lose their colon like I did. And he thinks he wouldn't have lost his colon had he started earlier, or getting cancer like Jeff did. So yeah, it's a tough thing to balance. I just try to put the example out there, and hopefully if people want to start doing it, they'll do it on their own, but hopefully on the same token, they won't wait till it's too late.
Yeah. And that's why talking about it is so important. It's like just getting the info out there to, I'm saying it again, to let people know that it's an option, like, is so important. It's very important.
There's so many people that are carnivore, and they have been. There's ones that have been carnivore for 40 years. They're just living their life, and they're quiet, and they kind of did the whole in the beginning, wishing everybody knew, and it just gets so, it can be draining after kind of, you know, having the same reaction. Like some of us don't deal with the rejection for, you know, very long. And it's like these people are just doing it, and those are the people we don't know that people have been doing this still during this whole high carb, you know, stuff we've been taught for the past 40 years. And so there's more of us out there, and not everybody's saying something, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, that's the part that's like,
there's all this advocacy for all these other like ways of eating and stuff, but when it comes to, especially in the type 1 diabetes group, unfortunately, when it comes to low carb and carnivore, it's like, you know, you kind of get attacked a little bit.
You're not allowed to say, you're not allowed to mention it, and
which is why we're fighting back about this, because there should be no discrimination against
There's a food shame issue. There's all these kind of, you know, be understanding to everybody, and so I have to exercise that. But it is hard to see that it's not shared as an option and not considered safe yet. I guess
it proves the point that they're kind of trying to ignore it.
Yeah,
A little
it's
bit.
the risks that come with bad metabolic health. I don't think those are understood.
Yeah.
You know, with the high blood sugars constantly in a child.
Yeah.
And you know, it's hard information to accept when your child is diagnosed with something scary. You want as much comfort as you can, and food is comforting.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah, that's tricky. It's tricky.
So where can everybody find you on YouTube?
I have a YouTube channel and it is called Ella's Egg Yolks. I haven't posted anything yet, but I'm thinking of maybe like every 2 weeks I might put out a little update video on how, you know, what I've been eating, what my blood sugars have been, you know, if I've been having any symptoms or anything like that. And so Ella's Egg Yolks. Keep an eye out.
Awesome. Well, I can tell you right now, there must be somebody that does not want this message getting out there. So that should be motivation for you to get going, because these comments from these spammers are insane.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, there's literally probably been at least 1,000 or more. And every account that I hide from the channel, it deletes about 40 comments at the same time. As soon as they pop up, I have to cancel another one. So keep up the good work, Ella.
Yeah.
I'm fighting back.
Right.
Yeah. Stay red meat. Go.
Right.
Just do it.
Yes. Just do it. That should be my catchphrase. Oh wait, no, I can't. That's trademarked by Nike.
Right.
Right.
Go for it. That'll be mine. Go for it.
Yep, for sure.
Well, you guys are awesome. I really appreciate you sharing your story. It's like so cool. You've been doing this for 4 years, and Mom too. Huge shout out. That's amazing. You had to unfortunately navigate all this stuff yourself, but you figured it all out for yourself and your daughter. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Good job.
I should mention, I say that I did it myself. Obviously, I had YouTube, but I have got to say that I am very thankful that my mom reversed my dad's pre-diabetes 15 years prior, 10 to 15 years prior, before her diabetes, type 2 or type 1. My mom was there kind of helping me put some pieces together. And I never mentioned that. And I realized that recently. I'm like, my parents are carnivores. So
they're in their 70s and they're
they're
very
69 and
healthy.
70. And it took her getting type 1 for me to like start seeing how it works.
Shout out to Grandma and
That's
Papa.
awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. Well, I think we can probably end there. We'll leave some of the juicier stuff for Ella's channel.
Oh, yeah.
And what's to come. Not to put any pressure on you, Ella, but we're putting pressure on you.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
She does. She needs to do it. She does.
Okay.
Yeah. You definitely are starting off in a great place, and you're starting off. You know, it's unfortunate the challenges that you have to go through, but you know, it seems like that's making you stronger. You're a very intelligent young woman. You're going to be able to bless and help probably hundreds of thousands of people, you know, with this knowledge that you have and the experience that you have. And I'm definitely looking forward to the content that you're going to put out in the future. And, you know, I'll be able to share that with people that I know that could personally benefit from this sort of thing. So I definitely thank you and appreciate you coming on to spend time with us and share this message.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. It was nice to get my mom on here, and it was also very nice meeting you, Kerry.
Yeah, likewise. You guys are awesome. Yeah, I look forward to when you put some content up. Let me know. I'll be happy to shout it out. Maybe we could do another video together or get one going with Emma. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm hoping on kind of having a community of teenage carnivores.
Yes, there's
Yeah.
Emma, and then Sophia Eats Steaks is good friends with Emma now. They're talking all the time. So yeah, we could definitely hook you guys up. That'd be fun.
That's
Sweet.
awesome.
Awesome.